This has to be record time for requiring a follow-up after a documentary. To be clear, I'm not going to be giving my opinion in this video. It's simply an extension of this documentary you see right here. You should go watch that to see the whole story of Payday 3 from pre-launch to September 2025. The purpose of this video is to give a small update to what's going on with the Payday franchise in general, because a lot has happened in the past few days for the Payday 3 anniversary. Basically, you don't need to see the documentary to understand this video, but it's always nice to have as much context as you can. You can easily watch that video right after this one, or before, whatever you want to do. Let's recap the tail end of what's going on with Payday 3 before I talk about the new stuff from this week. When we last spoke in my video about Payday 3, I talked about Armor 2.0 releasing in mid-2025. I mentioned Jacket was released, and 2 new heists came out. That was all of the paid content in Year 2 of Payday 3, which ended last week on the 21st of September. In total, that's less than half of what Year 1 had content-wise. Skills 2.0 had been mentioned offhand in a developer livestream, which is something I don't believe I mentioned. I left it out of the video as I was trying to document anything that had actually officially happened, such as updates or promised releases. Skills 2.0, at the time of that video, didn't fit that criteria. Another thing I didn't mention was the introduction of a new Starbreeze CEO, Adolf Christensen. He was elected new CEO of Starbreeze on April 1st, 2025, and shortly after promised a variety of things, including a content update for Payday 2. With the number of empty promises Starbreeze had already made at that point, I didn't think it felt fair to include everything he said, as he was still relatively new to the position, and thus, most likely had no effect on anything discussed previously. Basically, I wanted to give him time to do his thing. For the anniversary of Payday 3, Starbreeze posted this tweet and nothing else, which left the community both disappointed and confused from what I can tell. However, all the anniversary communication came out shortly after, starting with a Skills 2.0 blog on the 22nd of September. Right before I jump into that though, I'm Lucky, and you should subscribe to my channel. I've begun documenting events for video games like this, so if you like what you see, I'd appreciate a like and a subscription. The release of the Skills 2.0 blog for Payday 3 is easily something that should be one of the biggest events in the game's history. The skill system, as mentioned in my previous video, was a very hot topic for many people. Claims range from it being boring and too simple to being outright the worst part of Payday 3. Thus, Skills 2.0 is a big milestone for Starbreeze to finally talk about. To briefly touch on the blog, it discusses the idea of turning the skill lines into skill trees in a similar style to Payday 2. Community response is relatively positive, with many praising the skills as seemingly fun and a positive change from the current system. Dissenting opinion is typically focused on the idea of moving laterally in the skill tree, something that most skill systems won't do for a variety of reasons. The other focal point is on Starbreeze claiming to still be debating whether or not they're scaling the cost of skills further up the trees. Essentially meaning skills in Tier 4 would cost the same as skills in Tier 1. Overall, I see about a 70-30 split in favor of the new skill system changes. However, I'm actually not going to talk too much about Skills 2.0 or even go through any of the blog. Instead, I want to talk about what's gone wrong with the reveal of Skills 2.0. That is to say, there was literally zero news coverage for this announcement. I combed through the internet and couldn't find a single news article, reputable or not, about Skills 2.0's official announcement at the time of writing this video. Essentially, the general public seems to have fallen off Payday 3 almost entirely, to the point where arguably the most important update ever isn't being covered or seen by anyone outside the currently small circle of followers and creators. What is being covered in great detail, however, is something that no one expected. Payday 2, the 12-year-old previous entry in the franchise, has a new subscription service released and announced at the same time as Skills 2.0. On the surface, this seems to be a relatively harmless addition that allows users to spend $5 a month to have access to all 75 DLC released over Payday 2's lifespan. If it was just that, the community most likely would have been accepting at best and indifferent at worst. However, there's another layer, of course, that is cause for concern in news articles. Shortly after the subscription service went live, astute Redditors, did I really just say that? Noticed that approximately 3 weeks before the announcement, the infamous collection of Payday 2 DLC had its price raised about $50 US. For anyone unfamiliar, the Infamous Collection is a Steam bundle that gets you all Payday 2 DLC currently available for one discounted price, meaning it is directly related to the new subscription service that does the same. Naturally, once the community caught on to this, they were quick to give feedback. At the time of writing this script, the Steam news post has 3,511 comments and an astounding 0 likes on the post. A post on Reddit's r/Steam has reached the top of the subreddit with almost 9,000 votes, which easily qualifies it to show up near the top of the popular tab. I mentioned that Skills 2.0 had 0 news coverage, but the price change and subscription service already have tens of articles from reputable sources like IGN. I can't wait to see some comments about me calling IGN a reputable news source in 2025, but suffice to say, all of the gaming community knows what happened now. Diving a tiny bit further into the news reaction to everything, I wanted to go into some more specific details. First of all, the day after this whole thing happened, Starbreeze gave a brief statement in their official Payday Discord channel and on Twitter, stating that the price change was simply an accident and has been fixed accordingly. This was pretty much all we got from them officially. However, I found an article from PC Gamer and a few other places that actually prompted me to make this video. Looking at the PC Gamer article specifically, they claim to have gotten into contact with Gustav Nisser, Starbreeze's head of commercial. The PC Gamer article states that there was no connection, that the timing was simply unfortunate, and the studio had dropped the ball on keeping fans in the loop, which seems to confirm that the change to the Infamous collection was not done in a bad faith move to sell more subscriptions. Let me also be clear that there is no direct quote or full interview, so we don't know the full context around what Gustav Nisser actually said. So please make sure if you're forming an opinion on this topic, you do as much research as you can. Things may still be coming out over the next few days. Editor me here, I managed to find the original article. It looks like Gustav Nisser spoke directly to Game Developer in this article right here. In the article, he does confirm the price change was intentional, and that it seems like the real mistake was that it happened around the same time as the subscription coming out. Nisser claims that Starbreeze dropped the ball on coordinating internally and communicating with the community properly, and that the negative reaction makes sense, even though this was all done intentionally. This mostly confirms that the backlash was the cause of the price reduction back to where it was, but that this was only done due to the community backlash caused by the timing of everything. TLDR, the price change was on purpose, the backlash was on accident. The fallout from this situation still remains. As much of the community doesn't believe that Starbreeze made a mistake, something that is genuinely possible in these circumstances. The PC Gamer article also makes it seem like the accident part was that it happened around the time of the subscription model, which is why additional context surrounding the Nisser interview should be helpful. So I'd like to know what you guys at home think. Do you guys think Starbreeze made a genuine mistake? Do you think they're trying to cover something up? Let me know in the comments. It's helpful to document the community impact of things like this, especially if there's a future video on the subject. Now, you probably thought that would be it, right? I actually have a little more I'd like to talk about that seems to show some more issues with the Starbreeze team. Now, I promise I'm not trying to diminish the work of any of the team over at Starbreeze, but they seem to have made a serious mistake with the design of the next thing they announced at the time of writing this. On the 25th of September, Starbreeze announced the Year 2 bundle for Steam, featuring all content from years 1 and 2 of the game's lifespan. As of now, that's everything the game has to offer. Again, on the surface this looks great because you get the whole package for one discounted price. However, after a close inspection by my second favorite community member, Koji, thank you very much Koji, there's a bit of an anti-consumer issue. If we look here at Koji's diagram, the Year 1 bundle contains each chapter's DLC as a bundle. However, the Year 2 bundle that was just released contains the individual DLC from each chapter instead of the bundled version of it. Without going into too much more detail, that basically means the Year 2 bundle is actually the more expensive way to purchase everything as a new player. Since the total price of Year 1 content is more in the new bundle than it is in the old Year 1 bundle, the most cost-effective way to get everything is to buy the Year 1 bundle first, then buy the Year 2 bundle to get the rest of the DLC. It's actually also cheaper to buy the Year 1 bundle and then the individual DLC from Year 2, which is not how it should work. It seems to have been a poorly thought out way to bundle everything at best and an attempt to squeeze more money out of customers at worst. Again, that's not really for me to decide, but you're welcome to leave a comment letting me know what you think the intention was here. And if anything, this lends to the idea that the Infamous collection change was a genuine mistake. That or Steam doesn't really make it easy to update these things, which I did actually hear from someone working with Starbreeze. Now, before I wrap up, I just want to mention there's actually one more anniversary stream happening soon, but I'm ready to be done. They could announce something interesting on October 2nd, but I'm just gonna call it here. If there's even more going on to warrant a follow-up video, I'll do it, but I'm tired, boss. I'm a longtime fan and content creator for Payday who's just exhausted at this point. My next video will hopefully be another documentary style video, assuming the Payday world doesn't completely crumble in the meantime. Please subscribe if you're interested in seeing that, because they take a while to make. In conclusion, it seems that Starbreeze's development cycle of Payday 3 is a serious issue, but that's not their only problem. Failure to control the narrative around situations like this has caused some devastating fallout for their public image, and it can be very disappointing to see this right off the heels of what should be a really popular blog post. The community and general public seem to be taking this whole situation incredibly poorly, and we're at a point where Starbreeze and Payday's image might not be able to recover. Do you think they can bounce back? Or is this finally it for Payday? Thanks for watching.